Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Can't believe it's already almost the end of the year again. 2024 has been a rough year, hasn't it? At least it has been for me. In fact, you know what? For Christmas this year, let's just have a good laugh. I want to show you my favorite So Bad It's Good Christmas special, The Christmas Tree, released in 1991. Not much is known about this special. It was broadcasted only once on the USA Network in 1991 and never again. It was directed by Flammarion Fiera, who is most notable for his work as a background and storyboard artist and worked on various TV shows like Ghostbusters, the original She-Ra, and He-Man. However, it seems like for most of the cast and crew, this was their only production, which, once you see the movie, I think you'll understand why most of them didn't get any other gigs. But let's not waste any more time and get started with The Christmas Tree. We start off with the narrator giving us some context of the story and setting the scene, using the generic book opening introduction.
Yes, there are many stories about this special holiday named Christmas. If you look in this book alone, you will find lots of them. Oh yes, here we are.
I mean, yeah, you say that, but it looks like most of that book is blank, so... We get introduced to the orphanage, this pine tree, and our villain, Mrs. Mavilda, who is honestly the best character in the whole special.
The little ones were always forced to do heavy work by the wicked woman.
I don't know why this cut is so funny. Like, you go girl, you eat that food. She got like 2 hams and a turkey to herself. Anyways, we also get introduced to the most incompetent mayor, who assumes that Mrs. Mavilda does a good job with the children, as he steps 5 feet into the main lobby, sees the 2 random children that Mrs. Mavilda picks out to show off to the mayor with new clothes, gives her 2 bags of money like he's Mr. Monopoly, and then leaves. And Mrs. Mavilda just instantly puts the children back in rags as soon as the mayor leaves and gambles the rest of the money with her friends. Why hasn't this mayor asked to see the other children or gone to inspect the rest of the orphanage? Or even question why the orphans are in rags the rest of the time he sees them outside of his inspections? Who knows? That's the greatest mystery of this movie. The children at least have a couple friends, though.
Yes, hope well, because the kids believed that the tree was magical. It somehow was going to bring them a mom and a dad to adopt and take them away from the unbearable Mrs. Mavilda.
Okay, maybe one of their friends is their cult deity, and the other friend is a stray dog named Licorice, who Mavilda keeps trying to send to the pound whenever she catches him. Luckily, the dog gets away each time. I will still never understand why this kid over here is just headbanging while the other kids are cheering. But anyways, we get introduced to a family that's moving into this town, Ray and Judy and their kids Pappy and Lily. The mayor has them set up where the dad will have to stay at a boarding house near his job site, and since his family can't stay there, they'll be living at the orphanage, where Judy will work as Mavilda's assistant.
I'd better go now. Take good care of yourself and the children, Judy. I will be back before Christmas.
Sir, you good? You don't just sound dead inside. You sound like you might not even have a pulse. Well, the Walking Dead aside, Mavilda shows Judy the room that she'll be staying in and says that the children will be staying with the orphans downstairs.
Come, children. Follow me. Another thing.
Jeez, the way this movie is edited makes Mrs. Mavilda sound so erratic. I love it.
This is going to be your bedroom. I want you to make sure you have your feet clean so you won't dirty the sheets. I don't want to hear anybody crying around here. And most of all, no pillow fights.
Okay, why is she mentioning pillow fights like she has some PTSD over it? Things were never the same ever since the Pillow War of 1952.
If you think that you're not going to be punished because you have your mother here, you're going to be mighty disappointed.
You know, if this actress is still looking for some acting work, she should really audition as the Wicked Witch of the West. I think she could pull it off. Anyway, Mavilda leaves the children alone, and the orphans try to break the ice in the creepiest way possible. Ugh, what is this? The Christmas Tree or Children of the Corn? I guess at least Lily and Pappy are fine with it. Judy gets started with her day, doing the chores around the orphanage, and then the children start to drag Judy into the cult of Hopewell. And she also gets introduced to the dog Licorice.
Well, children, if Mrs. Mavilda doesn't want him in here, we shouldn't have him in here.
I knew we should have never shown him to your mother. Adults are always the same. Cold out there, he's gonna catch a cold.
Jeez, talk about massive guilt tripping. It does end up working though, and Judy helps to get a collar for Licorice so he won't be bothered by the dog catcher. And when the children suggest they do something nice for Mrs. Hopewell, Judy decides to surround her in the chopped up pieces of her brethren? She's lucky that Mrs. Hopewell doesn't smite her down just for that. More time passes by as Judy hangs out with the kids and apparently educates them on sandwiches. The mayor sees the children and doesn't seem to notice that they're in rags, but instead seems thrilled that Judy and the kids are getting along. Mrs. Mavilda continues to gamble away the donated money, and we get one of the greatest lines in all of cinema.
Here goes the children's money again.
Oh, Mrs. Mavilda, your presence brings me so much joy. Time ends up passing until we get to Christmas time. The mayor brings over some more money for the children.
By the way, where's Judy? Oh, Mrs. Kindle. Good that you're here.
Where did she teleport from? There was only one footstep sound added in. Paranormal abilities aside, the mayor asks Judy to help Mrs. Mavilda pick out new clothes for the children. Judy is overjoyed at this and goes to tell the children the good news. And despite the expectation that she needs to go shopping with the money tomorrow, Miss Mavilda still decides screw it and calls her friends to gamble. With probably the worst lip syncing I've ever seen. I've seen animatics with smoother animation. In the meantime, Judy tells the orphans about Christmas.
Christmas? Well, let me tell you about it. Christmas is a pretty and happy time of the year. A time when people get together. Friends with friends, children with their parents and grandparents.
Judy, maybe don't talk about getting together with parents and grandparents to a group of orphan children? I don't know, it doesn't seem like the best idea. It's kind of insensitive. We didn't probably get some of the most awkward back and forth between the two scenes that I've ever seen, as Judy explains Christmas to the children and we cut to split seconds of Mavilda gambling, until finally we see Mavilda lose all the money in one round of cards because she's not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree.
What a hangover.
And that is probably the second best line in the movie. Mrs. Mavilda ends up telling Judy that they are no longer going to go shopping for the clothes, and isn't happy when Judy presses further.
I want to tell you something, and you better listen. I don't want the children playing outside anymore. You better make sure of that.
Because you don't want the mayor to see them without new clothes.
How can you dare to... All right! Now you know. And now that you know, you better make sure you don't tell him a thing, or you and your children are out in the cold.
What was that? Some of her dialogue and animation makes her look so mood-swingy.
Children, I know this is going to upset you, but I must tell you something. You know the new clothes we promised you? Well, I'm afraid you're not going to be getting them. I know, but there's nothing I can do about it.
That's not fair, Mrs. Kindle.
Please, children, don't make it more difficult for me.
Oh yes, Judy. Just tell the children who are now upset, don't make it more difficult for me. Comfort 101. It's not like you're the one in ragged clothes. Mrs. Mavilda, however, determines that she needs to get rid of Judy, since the secret of how she actually treats the children could come out to the mayor, and she comes up with a plan to frame Judy for thievery by sending her to pick up a package from a friend and having the friend plant a valuable item in Judy's purse before calling the police. She also decides to have Mrs. Hopewell chopped down.
Soon I'll have those children back under my rules, just like before. And a warm fire in my room with plenty of new wood. Mavilda, old girl. Sometimes I don't realize just how brilliant you are.
Okay, I know I've said this a few times already, but she seriously has the best dialogue in this whole special. The children overhear Mrs. Mavilda's plan, but they aren't able to warn Judy in time, and Mrs. Mavilda catches them when they try to come up with a plan by materializing in the doorway legs first.
Oh, yes. I forgot something. What is the name of your friend out there? Come on, tell me. I want to know your friend's name.
Why do you want to know if you're going to cut Mrs. Hopewell down?
Oh, I see. The little big mouth has already told you. I'm cutting her down for firewood.
Ugh, I hope no one else got FNAF jump scared by weirdly detailed Mrs. Mavilda there. The children don't sleep at all that night, and try to think of what they could do to help Mrs. Hopewell, cause they determine Judy can handle herself. Nice one, guys! They decide that they can't talk to the mayor since he went home and they have no idea where he lives, and decide the second best plan would be to go to the North Pole and find Santa for help. They decide to send Pappy cause, why not? They don't even give him an explanation, and Licorice helps Pappy get to the North Pole. Luckily, Mrs. Mavilda's plan of framing Judy doesn't come to fruition, as Judy is not able to cross the bridge to get to Mavilda's friend for the package and must go back.
But I must get through.
I'm sorry, but you gotta turn around and go back. Merry Christmas, ma'am.
Merry Christmas.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before.
We then also see that Pappy's sister Lily also snuck along to the North Pole expedition and somehow even had time to sneak to the kitchen for food.
How did you get that? I just went to the kitchen. And Mrs. Milda didn't catch you? Not when you go through the window.
You little goblin. However, before they could reach the North Pole, a bear begins to chase Licorice, Lily, Pappy, and is 0 frames of animation. Licorice helps fend off the bear, but it still results in Lily falling down a cliff and disappearing from sight.
Lily! 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 Where are you? Where'd you go?
Okay, kid, can we get an ounce more emotion, please? I've heard kids sound more upset looking for their missing Pokemon card. Judy gets home and finds out that her children are missing, and Miss Mavilda ain't having none of that.
You have caused enough trouble. I'm sick and tired of your children in that tree. Pack your things right now. You're fired!
I swear, the actress from Mrs. Mavilda just sucked out all the acting ability from the other actors for herself. She might be overacting, but at least she's the only one trying. As Judy's packing up her things, though, she sees Mrs. Mavilda trying to cut down Mrs. Hopewell and has had enough of Mrs. Mavilda's crap and tries to keep the tree from getting cut down. The only problem is, though, Miss Mavilda don't give a fuck.
Frank, turn on that machine and do the job.
But they're surrounding the tree.
Do as I say. Those fools will move away. Show them the saw.
Whatever you say, ma'am.
What is the meaning of this?
Where did all the snow go? Pappy finally makes it back from his expedition and... Wait, where did all these people come from?
Ray!
Where did he come from? When he said he'd be back before Christmas, I wouldn't fake in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve.
Tell me, son, what happened to Lily?
She fell from a cliff, Mommy, Daddy. All the way down.
Man, give these two an Oscar. That is the real way to react when someone tells you one of your children are missing and possibly dead.
Why don't you explain all this to me, Mrs. Kindle?
Well, Mrs. Hopewell is this pine tree. A tree that has become important for the children.
Hey, guys, I know this tree is cool and all, but shouldn't we be finding the missing child? No? Alright then.
Wait a minute, hold it. What happened with the money that I've been donating? Why didn't Mavilda buy toys for them? And look at them. They look like they haven't had new clothes in years. What if the inspector were to come?
Okay, sir, if you're giving city donations to the orphanage, shouldn't you ask for a report of how the funds are spent? And obviously an inspector hasn't been by in years if this has been allowed to go on. And even so, how is that the only thing you're worried about? You dropped the ball on the children's welfare, you donut. The mayor does say that Mrs. Hopewell isn't going to be cut down, but like I said, Mrs. Mavilda don't give a fuck.
Mrs. Hopewell is going to be all right.
That's what you think, children!
Seize that woman!
Stand back, you fool!
Okay, now you guys are never going to believe the sequence of the events that follows this. Are you ready? Dude, Mrs. Hopewell smited her down!
What happened?
I don't know! She got struck by lightning!
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everybody!
I don't know why, I don't like the Santa Claus voice in this one. Something about it is just off to me. Santa, I think those lights aren't centered. Actually, you know what? I don't want to get struck down like Mrs. Mavilda did. You do you, dude. And now I'm pretty sure everyone here is blind after getting their retinas nuclear blasted by the Christmas cheer.
Mommy!
Oh, Lily, I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, at least Santa did something to help Lily. It was up to everyone else in the town. She'd probably be bare food right now. Ugh, Santa, don't look at me like that.
Peace be with you all.
No, I'm just kidding. He gives the kids new clothes and then just parachutes gifts down for everyone else. Hopefully everyone actually gets what they wanted. The mayor then declares Mrs. Hopewell as city property to make sure it's protected, and offers Judy the job of taking care of the orphanage.
Wait a minute. You can't take this job. That's right, because you'll be busy helping me raise 9 children.
9 children? But Ray, we only have 2 children.
2, 3. Ray, there's only 7 children here. Unless... Ew, keep that to yourself, dude. Either way, Judy is fine with it, and Mrs. Mavilda is somehow not dead, and we get our closing statement from the narrator.
Lily and Pappy are back safe. The other children have themselves a mom and a dad. Ray and Judy got themselves the job of running the orphanage for all children to come. The mayor got his town decorated.
I didn't realize that was a side plot in the movie, but good on him, I guess. It still doesn't look like it's decorated here, though. He did kind of a bad job at it.
And Mrs. Mavilda, well, Mrs. Mavilda, she's going to be all right.
The way that you're saying that and the way Mrs. Mavilda got blown halfway across town from this lightning strike, I don't believe you.
From what I've heard, she went back to work in the orphanage as Judy's assistant.
Okay, with that laugh, I really don't believe you now.
Well, don't worry about Mrs. Mavilda. She's good now. She learned that you always win when you are good.
Yes, she learned you always win you are good because she had her brains fried and scrambled, but it's alright because it's Christmas. But yeah, this is not a good Christmas special. If you're looking for something inspiring or warm and fuzzy, the animation is inconsistent and choppy. Backgrounds also make no sense, as it will randomly be summer in some frames when it's supposed to be the winter time. Everyone other than Mrs. Mavilda sounds like they're dead inside, and don't even get started with the awkward dialogue and odd story. But this is honestly what makes it so funny. I love to watch this movie on Christmas whenever I just want to have a good time. If you enjoy movies such as The Room, I recommend adding this one to your Christmas roster for that reason. But anyway, let me know if this was a Christmas special that you ever grew up with, or if this is your first time hearing about it. Thank you for everyone who dropped by for this video, and I hope everyone has a happy holiday season. And hopefully everyone will have a good year coming up in 2025. Until next time, this is Dance Macabre, signing off. Bye bye.